How's it going, everybody? ChaseTheBro here, coming at you with a new Dark Souls 3 weapon review video. Today we're going to be looking at the Onyx Blade, which is found in the new DLC, The Ashes of Ariandel. Now, if you haven't picked up the DLC yet, I suggest you do. It has a fair amount of gameplay, but it adds an amazing amount of new weapons, and the Onyx Blade being one of them. Now, the Onyx Blade is more suited towards pyromancy builds or hexer builds, anything that has high intellect and faith, seeing as most of the damage this weapon does is dark. So if you're running a regular quality build, you're not going to enjoy using this weapon. You won't get the max amount of damage out of it. But I think it's fair. There weren't a lot of weapons that actually scaled off intellect and faith as it was. So they made a good call throwing this weapon into the DLC. Now, the Onyx Blade is a greatsword, so it's got some good hyper armor, not as good as an ultra greatsword, but it's faster. So personally, I like that they made this an actual greatsword, not an ultra greatsword. It's not very heavy, so if you're running a low vitality build, it's a fair choice of a weapon. It does some great damage, especially when you use its weapon art to buff it. I think with my 40-40 build, it's in the 700s once it's buffed. And the buff lasts a minute, I believe. I haven't actually timed it, but I never really runs out when I'm actually fighting. So that's another bonus. Some of its weaknesses, personally, I don't like running attacks on greatswords. I find them super slow and easy to parry. Like so. But, I mean, I guess every weapon has a little bit of weaknesses, otherwise it wouldn't be fair. Now this weapon is actually great for PvP. Not a lot of people run a high dark resistance build, so you get the most out of your damage output. Yeah. So, moving on. Now let's talk about the moveset. It has a standard greatsword moveset. When it's one-handed, it swings side to side. Its R2 is a thrust. Its rolling attack is a slam down rolling attack. But I think it's also counted as a thrust, so if you're using the Leo ring, that'll count towards the extra damage. When it's two-handed, its thrust is vertical, which is great if they're close to you. You can get 2 hits in for sure, and if they roll away from you on the third one, you may catch them. So try to throw that in when you can. I personally like holding it one-handed. I find it faster, even though I don't think it is. But I'm able to angle the swings like I just did right there, and catch people on the side when they try to roll away. It's not the best weapon for chasing people down, but I actually love this weapon. I made this whole build centered just around this weapon, just for this video, but I ended up liking it. Also, yeah, the buff is actually an attack if they're close enough to you, and it does a fair amount of damage. I think it does a good 300 to 400 on each person I've actually hit them with. Now, this weapon is actually one of the rare weapons where I can actually fight 2 or more people at the same time with it, just because of the way it swings and its hyper armor. And if you haven't tried it out yet, I really suggest you try it out. It gives you a reason to run a pyro build. You can throw magic in with it. I personally didn't for this video because I'm showcasing the sword, so I didn't want to waste any of my skill points into attunement and have less stamina. Mine's mostly for PvP, so I focused it more on the melee base damage that it causes. I also run it with the Dark Clutch Ring because it adds at least 100 damage once you buff the sword. I know it cost me some damage, but I think it's worth it personally. Yeah, here I'm fighting 3 people at a time, and it's not even that hard, honestly. I wasn't having trouble with it. This sword does a huge amount of damage. And if you're trying to find it in the new DLC and you have no idea where it is, you fight a man named Sir Vilnheim, I believe, and he drops the sword. When you're fighting with it, though, you're going to want to keep it buffed. It doesn't really cost much mana, and it adds a pretty decent amount of damage. So to get the most out of it, I suggest you constantly buff the weapon when it runs out. It is pretty easy to read, though, so try not to just be R1ing all the time, or else you'll get parried often. Switch it up, keep your spacing different, and it has some phantom range, which they need to fix, but I mean, a lot of weapons do, so it's pretty fair. That was an example of the 3-star where you can hit them, but I didn't actually reach them. But yeah, let's go check out the stats. The first thing I want to point out is the strength and dexterity requirements for this weapon are 14 and 12. So you're going to want to make sure you have at least that. I wouldn't recommend pouring any more into them because this weapon scales mostly off intelligence and faith. For your intelligence and faith, you're going to want 40 in each, just because it soft caps at 40. You can pour more points into it if you wish, but it will only give you 1 or 2 damage per point, so it's not really worth it in my opinion. Other than that, I just shoved the rest of my points into endurance and vigor and tried to spread them out evenly. I need at least 35 endurance with most of my builds, just because I find myself running out of endurance during my PvP fights, if not. So I keep it at 35 at least. And the rest I put in vigor, which gave me 39 vigor, which isn't too bad. I'm used to having like 44, but I can handle 39. It's not a huge difference. And my weapon does 581 when it scales off intelligence and faith at 40/40, but when you buff it, it will do 726. That's also because I'm wearing a ring, which I will talk about in a second, but for now, yeah. The weapon at +5 gets CC scaling in intelligence and faith, and DD in strength and dex, so it does get some strength and dex damage, but not much. As you can see, it's only gaining +18 from 14 and 12. I always keep a simple parrying shield on me. Just for this build, I use the ChaseTheBro because it's light, and this build doesn't have a lot of vitality. And I also keep the Orshka Chime on me. You can keep whatever you want offhand if you want to use fire or magic or heals, whatever you want. I'm just wearing anything that gets me to 69.9 weight ratio, but I happen to also think it looks pretty darkish. I like the way it looks. I wear the Dark Clutch Ring because it increases the dark damage by a fair amount. As you just saw, I do 581, and when it's buffed, 726, but without the ring, I do 671. So it adds 51 damage. So it's worth it to me. That's why I keep it on. I always wear this Ring of Steel protection because it gives me an absorption of, well, like, if I have it off, it's 18. If I have it on, it's 30. So it's just worth it for me. I wear the Ring of Favor because it's like one of the best rings always, no matter what build you're doing. And I never know what I want as my 4th ring because I don't parry that much, so I won't have the Hornet Ring. So I just throw on the Life Ring to give me an extra 10% health. Yeah. I also keep the Vow of Silence as my spell on the side, just because I hate fighting mages so much with their annoying floating balls of magic. So when I cast that, it just prevents magic for a fair bit of time, allowing me to go actually fight them. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Like and comment. Subscribe if you'd like to see more. Bye, guys.